What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve.
I'm Lindsay.
Today we're going to be reading to the Queen's 54 Countries, Commonwealth of Nations Explained. Obviously, this video is a few years old, so now I'm guessing it would be the King's 54 countries, but I'm shocked that the Commonwealth is actually 54 countries. I knew it was a lot of countries, but I had no idea it was 54. While I understand the term, or I know that the Commonwealth of Nations are basically a bunch of nations that are tied together originally from the British Empire, if I'm not mistaken, and they've decided to all fall under this umbrella, if you will.
Of something.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what it actually means. Yeah. So that's what we're going to dive in and learn today. What is the Commonwealth of Nations?
The British Empire hasn't really existed since the late 60s. However, the empire didn't disappear without leaving a long-lasting legacy on the geopolitical landscape of today. A legacy that led to the creation of the Commonwealth of Nations.
By the way, before we continue, I don't remember, did we check out together the what the British Empire looked like at its height?
I don't think so.
Okay, that's something we're going to check out in the near future.
The Commonwealth of Nations is an association of 54 independent and sovereign states.
That blows my mind.
That blows my mind, too.
Territories of the British Empire.
Okay, so they are former territories of the British Empire.
But still, like, as a formality, I guess, or like a...
Yeah, I don't exactly understand what are the benefits. I hope he's going to explain exactly what are the benefits of being tied together like that. Is it militarily a benefit?
That's probably the most, because...
But then again, a lot of these nations probably belong to NATO, which would be where everybody's tied together militarily.
I don't know. So it's an ally thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
With a conjoined land area of 11.5 million square miles and
Wow.
2.4 billion people,
Whoa.
the Commonwealth contains approximately
Wow.
20% of the world's land and 32% of the world's inhabitants.
Okay.
What?
All right.
Okay, 54 countries. 1.5 million square miles.
20% of the land, 32% of the inhabitants of the world. So a third of the world's populations is in a Commonwealth nation. I did not imagine that would be the case, knowing that, okay, India actually, I just thought about India might be a Commonwealth nation. I think it might, I think it probably is. China isn't, obviously. Mm-hmm. So, considering China has well over 1 billion people, I don't remember how large it is at this point, but, and then you think of all the other countries that aren't one of these 54 countries. Mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing that amount of people are in a Commonwealth nation.
Yeah,
wow.
It really is.
All right.
This massive association is unique on the world stage, with its roots in British imperialism. At its height, the largest empire the world had ever seen, the decline of the British Empire led to political turmoil and unrest throughout its formerly colonized regions, particularly outside of its mostly white colonies like Canada and Australia. These colonies would be the first to see change, being promoted to dominion status throughout the late 19th century and early 20th century. This meant they had more independence over their own affairs, while still ultimately being under the authority of the crown. Canada would be the first to become a dominion in 1867, followed by Australia in 1901, New Zealand and Newfoundland in 1907.
Oh, wow.
South Africa in 1910, and Ireland in 1922.
Okay, that started a little earlier than I thought.
Me too.
I thought this was going to be something that all would have took place at least within the 1900s, The
leaders of which would attend the 1926 Imperial Conference. At this conference, Britain and its dominions agreed that they would all be equal members of the British Empire, meaning, despite all owing allegiance to the crown, they would not be ruled by the United Kingdom. The powers at this conference decided on the name British Commonwealth of Nations to describe their newly formed organization, the first form of what we now know as the Commonwealth of Nations today. This agreement would be formalized in the Statute of Westminster in 1931, allowing the Commonwealth to take shape. It is notable to point out that, at the time of the Imperial Conference, the British Empire included vast areas of land in Africa, much of the Middle East, the entirety of Pakistan and India, as well as several other regions across the world. While the only territories represented at the Imperial Conference were the predominantly white members of the British Empire. leading many to refer to this early form of the Commonwealth as the White Commonwealth. The newly formed British Commonwealth of Nations would only exist in this form for a relatively brief period. Britain's colonies not included in the early Commonwealth began to seek further separation and even independence from the British, beginning with India in 1947. India would become a part of the Commonwealth initially. However, upon announcing intentions to sever ties with the Crown and become a republic in 1949, it would no longer meet the requirements for Commonwealth membership. It was because of India's switch to a republican form of government that, at a meeting of Commonwealth leaders in 1949, it was decided that member states may be in the Commonwealth if they accepted the British Crown as a symbol of free association between member states.
Okay, so now we get to the point where instead of having allegiance to it, you only need to agree that it's a symbol of free association to your nation. I still don't understand exactly what's happening. Like obviously being tied together has to have some major benefits.
Right.
Otherwise, what's the point, right? Like what exactly?
What does each country get out of it? Like,
right. Like, I mean, like I understand, maybe if this ties you together somehow financially and has a financial benefit for each nation, or maybe militarily, like what you're saying. But beyond that, is it just symbolic?
I don't know. I'm wondering if it's like kind of like a networking thing, like where how like people join fraternities and sororities to have connections,
right? I wonder if it's like the European Union is. All the European countries are tied together and they work together to come up with rules and regulations and laws no, that wouldn't be it, because all these nations are sovereign. Right? And I think within the European Union, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that generally speaking, while those nations are sovereign, they ultimately abide by certain rules that the whole European Union agree on or something. I haven't looked into the European Union really, so I don't know exactly, but that's the impression I have, at least.
Yeah.
Meaning India could remain in the Commonwealth. Along with this change, it was decided that the British Commonwealth of Nations would drop the British in its title, becoming the Commonwealth of Nations we know today.
Wow.
Pakistan and Sri Lanka would also be Commonwealth members by 1949. The Irish Free State, one of the founding members of the original British Commonwealth, would withdraw from the Commonwealth at this time as well.
Oh, the Irish Free
This is what
State.
the new Commonwealth of Nations looked like as of 1949. The number of Commonwealth nations would increase greatly throughout the next several decades.
Wow.
However,
Wait, so this originally was, not originally, obviously originally it was only like 4 to 6 or something like that amount of nations. But what year was this?
I don't remember.
Like 1967 or
I don't remember exactly what year it was. 1949?
1949? Okay, so 1949 there were only 8?
I guess so.
That's crazy, and it's jumped up to...
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I get what you're saying, yeah.
Now. Wow.
did
I thought
not
it
come without
started
issues.
that big.
2 other member states, on top of Ireland, would leave the Commonwealth. Firstly, the founding member South Africa in 1961,
Oh,
and later Pakistan in 1972.
I assume
Both of
South
these,
Africa was
however,
still a
would
Commonwealth
rejoin.
nation today.
The
Yeah.
first being Pakistan, rejoining after 17 years in 1989.
Oh, okay.
And the second, South Africa, rejoining after 33 years in 1994.
Okay, there has to be some sort of really good benefit for a country
Right.
to
Otherwise,
leave
why would you leave and then
come back? We can figure out what the benefit, what happens by joining.
Mozambique, joining in 1995, was the first nation to join the Commonwealth of Nations that was not at some point under British control, but rather Portuguese control as a colony. Today, the Commonwealth of Nations has 54 member states across the world.
That's
The
insane.
most recent addition being Rwanda in November of 2009.
Look at all those flags, man.
As of 2009, there were nations still joining.
Yeah, that's crazy. So to be part of the Commonwealth of Nations, it sounds like your nation doesn't have to necessarily have originally been a British territory.
Right.
That's so wild, man. I assumed that every single country had been at some point a British territory.
Part of the British Empire.
Wow.
While, since 1949, Commonwealth members have been allowed to choose their head of state freely, many Commonwealth nations continue to observe the Queen as a reigning constitutional monarch. These 16 nations are all members of the Commonwealth of Nations.
Okay. There's Canada.
Australia.
Yeah.
I think New Zealand.
Yeah, I think that's New Zealand.
And are collectively known as the Commonwealth Realm.
The Commonwealth
These
realm.
nations include, among others, Canada, Jamaica, the UK, Australia, Papua New Guinea, and New Zealand. The Commonwealth of Nations is one of the largest associations of countries in the world today, and exists to serve the economic, social, and political needs of its member states, from some of the world's largest economies to countless developing nations, and is an interesting result of British imperialism.
All right, guys, this was interesting. He did briefly touch on the main question I have, and that is, what are the benefits of being part of the Commonwealth of Nations? And there does seem to be some sort of financial or economic benefits to being a part of the Commonwealth Nations.
Yeah.
Also, militaristic benefits. It sounds like that you guys would have each other's backs beyond just if you're a NATO member having the other nations of NATO's backs. You have also this pact within this 54 countries here as well. So it sounds like it's basically kind of like the European Union in a way, and it's just another pact.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of a little bit of a foreign thing to me, obviously, because in the U.S., well, yeah. But in the U.S., we obviously aren't tied together with nations. We're actually allies, of course, with other nations, but we're not tied together under some sort of umbrella of nations. So this is something that we have no experience of at all. But I'm guessing this is basically another version of the European Union in a way, but obviously spread out all over the world. Yeah. And majority of these nations having at one point been part of the British Empire. And I only saw one that he said that wasn't originally part of the European,
that he pointed out
British Empire, but maybe there are others. Let us know in the comments, guys.
If you know of any.
Yes, but also let us know in the comments, guys, how would you describe the benefits of being part of the Commonwealth of Nations? What all is involved in, do the Commonwealth of Nations meet each year to discuss economic stuff going on around the world, or what they want to do together, how they're going to work together? Or is it more of just you kind of agree to some commonalities when you come in, and then maybe you help each other out here or there when one nation's in need, but otherwise you're sovereign and you're just kind of left alone? I don't know. I still don't quite understand exactly the full picture of like what do each of the nations get out of this, but obviously it sounds like there are some pretty big benefits to being a part of one of these nations. It sounds like it's not only being an ally, but it goes a little beyond that maybe.
Yeah.
You know, that's at least how I picture the European Union, at least, is like all the nations are kind of, you know, allies, but beyond that, they're almost like, it's almost like a family of nations. And maybe this is kind of that same thing. Maybe this is a family of nations. These 54 nations have agreed to such unity in some ways to become part of under this umbrella. The Commonwealth of Nations, often simply referred to as the Commonwealth, is an international association of 56 member states.
So it's gained a couple since we watched that.
Oh, wow.
Since the video was made.
That's just a few years old, so it's had to have been in the last couple of years. So this is crazy. So you've got these countries all over the world, from North America, South America, Central America. I can't tell how many might be in Europe, if any. Do you see any in Europe itself? I can't tell. Maybe some small dots down here.
Yeah.
There's some Africa, Asia, Oceania. That's wild. So all these countries use the English language.
Maybe. Do you think not as their primary language?
Maybe not as primary, but they are connected through their use of the English language. The head of the Commonwealth is Charles III.
They have no legal obligations to one another, though some have institutional links to other Commonwealth nations.
So it's not quite like the European Union then, because I believe the European Union have legal obligations to each other, if I'm not mistaken. But it sounds like you guys basically have just kind of come together on this umbrella and agree to kind of work together on certain things and whatnot. The members have a combined 2.4 billion people, almost a third of the world population, with 1.4 billion living in India and 94% living in Asia or Africa.
Wow.
So that's including, obviously, the UK. Mm-hmm. That's including Canada, Australia, New Zealand. Those countries only make up 6% of, wow, that's wild. Okay. All right, guys. So after reading through the wiki page, we still don't have a full explanation of exactly what the major benefits of being a Commonwealth nation are. Obviously, we understand that there are commonalities that tie people together in these nations, you know, the love for democracy and human rights and so forth, right? And I understand that you have to pay some sort of dues to be a part of it. And I understand, generally speaking, most were part of the British Empire, and all these things we learned throughout this video, what we learned in the Wikipedia page here. But we still don't quite grasp, like, what happens if one nation's having trouble? Do the other nations come together to help that nation militaristically or economically? Or is it just kind of like just more of just a symbolic type of joining? Because we haven't really seen exactly, you know, why
you would.
Yeah, like exactly what are the big reasons for becoming a Commonwealth nation? So if anyone out there can give us a better explanation of exactly, you know, why people are choosing or why nations are choosing to be a part of the Commonwealth, please let us know in the comments. But I thought this was really fascinating to learn how large this actually is.
Yeah, 56 now.
I would have never guessed it would have been that large. I thought it was, I don't know how many I thought it was, 15 or 20 or something like that.
Yeah, I probably would have guessed it.
You know, something like that. But to know that it's like about a third of the world's population, that I would have never guessed that either.
That's pretty crazy.
That's crazy. But guys, let us know in the comments. If you're part of the Commonwealth of Nations, let us know what you think about it. Do you feel like there are major benefits, you know, from being in a Commonwealth nation?
Or are there any negatives?
Yeah, or are there any negatives? It sounds like you're obviously sovereign nations, so you're not answering to any other nation, but are there any negatives and what are the benefits? That's really what we're trying to grasp here. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Please click that like button. Feel free to drop your comments or suggestions about this video or others. And don't forget to subscribe to continue to follow us on our journey to discover anything and everything from the UK and Ireland. Until next time, guys, peace.